Hi, I'm Ernie.
And I'm Ben.
And this is Budget Nerds.
What was all in your mind?
You are not alone.
No, you are not. Welcome back to the show, nerds. Welcome back, Ben. Really excited about this episode. As always, am I ever going to say I'm not excited? No, I won't do something like that because I truly am excited. And this episode, we're going to talk more about habits. Now, we've done an episode in the past about habits. We talked about those 6 big main habits that YNABers do to gain control of their money. And we'll walk through those quickly here. But we wanted to take it a little bit smaller, right? What are the little things that you and I do every single week that bring us back to the budget, that keep us in line with the plan, and just kind of keep us moving forward to keep that momentum going?
Yeah, I like that because I feel like there's a lot of folks who, and this might be you guys sometimes too, where you're like, you've been using YNAB for a while, you've been budgeting for a while, and then you start to get off a little bit. And I think really the reason why is because you might not have these little habits established in your life. And then you might be like, oh, I haven't looked at it in a month and I need to do a fresh start and all that stuff. And you feel bad. You don't need to feel bad. You can start over anytime. Totally fine. But like it's really these little things that you do every day that kind of reinforces you and kind of keeps you moving. So we wanted to talk about some of those things.
Yeah, we knew you folks would love this too because the YNAB community, especially the nerds, they're optimizers, right? They like figuring out how to be as efficient, optimize things to the hilt. And so, let's just kind of take this as far as we can go. But like I said, let's quickly review those 6 big habits that we talked about in that episode. Man, I don't even know how long ago that was. Probably a year and a half, year ago.
I think it's, at least a year ago. So yeah, let's talk about that. So, and we'll link to that episode for you guys. But the first one is enter money when it arrives, which implies not before, right? So when you get that paycheck, enter it. And then the next habit goes right next to the next one is assigned to 0. So once you enter that money, go ahead and assign the money in your budget. Why don't you take the next one, Ernie?
Check the budget before spending. This is just to let you know where you stand with all your category balances, help you make those good enough spending decisions. And then number 4, enter day-to-day spending on the phone. So those categories that you're spending from on a regular basis, get those transactions in there as soon as possible. I like doing this from the mobile app because I always have my phone on me. And that way, again, you just always know where you stand with those category balances with the really important categories.
Yeah. And then next is reconcile frequently, whatever frequently means to you. Actually, I'll talk about that a little bit, what it means for me. That means just making sure that your accounts in YNAB match up with your accounts at the bank, that they're friendly, that they're reconciled. And then the last one is adjust along the way. Change your budget. It's okay to change your budget. Rule 3, wham those categories, right?
So those are the top 6. I'm guessing most folks are doing those on a regular basis. So now we can get into the little ones, right? The little things that keep us on track. Do you want to start, Ben?
Yeah, let's go with that habit, reconcile frequently. I want to talk about what it means for me. I've talked about this probably a million times, but for me, I reconcile every single weekday.
Woo.
And it sounds like a lot, but it's really not for me because I have a really simple category structure. But I'll talk about what I do. I mean, I used to only reconcile once a month, and it got to be such a nightmare because I'd be going through, and I didn't even have import at the time, and I didn't understand that you could import a file. I back in the YNAB 4 days, I would literally download the CSV file. I've talked about this before, but yeah, I'll talk about it again. I would literally download the CSV file and put it next to my YNAB 4, and I would go through the ledger line by line, not realizing I could just click and drag it and put it in there. Oh man. So I made it hard for myself in a lot of ways, but one of the biggest ways I made it hard for myself was I'd only do it once every 3 weeks or once a month. And yeah, it just got to be a lot. It would be really hard to find the missing transaction in there.
I was going to say, if you had an error, you'd have to go through dozens and dozens of transactions.
Yeah. And then you go to Walmart, it's like, I have no idea what we bought. Like, a Walmart transaction or an Amazon transaction or any of those big box stores, it could be any one of dozens of categories, right? So yeah, I just wouldn't remember. I wouldn't be able to find the transactions. I remember I would pass the job back and forth. Like I would work on it for like a long time, and then I'd get frustrated, and then Caitlin would take the job for a little while, and she would work on it, and then she'd get frustrated. And I remember thinking one day, if I can just do this a little bit every day, then I think it'll work. So I set an alarm on my phone that said YNAB at 6 p.m. every night. Went off. Now 6 p.m. would be a terrible time for me to do it, but but I guess back then it worked. And I went and reconciled, and it started to become, I think this is the moment when I became not just a budgeter, but a budget nerd, because it started to be a joy. It actually started to be fun. Reconciling was actually an enjoyable, relaxing activity because it was satisfying and it was done in 5 minutes, So because I only had yesterday's transactions to worry about. So yeah, I started doing that and just made it a lot easier. But it's not just the frequency that makes it easy for me. It's that I have a really, really simple category structure. A lot of folks might have lots of credit cards, lots of accounts where they spend money from, but I just have really one account that I regularly spend money from, and that's just my checking account. I've said before, I don't have a credit card, so I don't have to worry about that. So really, when I am reconciling, it's only one account that I have to reconcile, and so I only have to pull up one bank. I only have to look at that. I don't have to worry about anything else. So it truly is very fast for me because it's a super simple mechanical activity because of that.
Okay, that makes sense. I have multiple accounts, one checking, one savings, cash account, and then 3 credit cards. So 6 accounts. I just don't want to go into every one of those accounts, or at least the 5 of them, and then do the reconciliation process. So for me, it's once a week. And I always look forward to that. Right now, I'm been reconciling on a Monday because I used to do it on Friday, but then some things shifted with my work schedule. So I just kind of built the reconciling routine around work. So now it's Monday morning and it's after all my spending on the weekend. And it really works. Like that's enough for me to stay in touch with what is happening at the bank and making sure my record keeping system YNAB matches it.
Yeah. And it's funny you say, like I say I have a very simple account structure. I actually do have more than just the one account. I mean, I have a savings account. I have I'm actually pulled up my budget now. I have another checking account that I literally just keep because I use SoFi for my regular spending and I really like it, but it's an online account and the only thing it can't do really well is deposit cash or take out cash. Like if I need to go to the bank and get like a bunch of $1 bills or something, I can't do that. So I do keep a Bank of America checking account just for that purpose. And it's kind of silly. So I do have that in YNAB. And I also have 3 cash accounts. I have my wallet, I have Caitlin's wallet, and I also have like what I call a house cash. I have a little safe with some money in it. I actually started having that for poker because I love doing poker, and I'm the bank whenever we do poker. So people pay me cash, and then I give them cash back, right? And it's not a lot of money. Like we pay for like $20. We play for like $20, but I needed to have a lot of change because I need to pay them back like $19 and 25 cents or something, something like that. And so I started keeping it. But now it's just really nice to have cash just like in the house,
Yes.
But I need to keep that as a separate thing. So I actually do have quite a few different accounts, but the difference with me is I only have one account that I spend money from regularly. So I'll once a week or so I'll reconcile some other ones. But yeah, every day I just reconcile the one checking account.
All right, since we're talking about accounts and simplifying that account structure, one of the habits I wrote down was figuring out how to keep the budgeting system as simple as possible. I mean, as much as I love getting in there and doing stuff, I don't want to be wasting all my time there. So I really am trying to be as efficient as I can. And I actually just realized last week that adding another account would simplify things for me. That seems kind of counterintuitive, but
yeah, because we're always talking about cutting accounts, and you're like, I added an account.
I added one. Here's the workflow. So my 2 youngest boys walk the neighbor's dog and get paid $36 in cash every single Friday. And so what my routine was, I would go to the bank, deposit those dollars, and then distribute them to their categories. And then there were all these other little moments throughout the course of a month where I would need cash. Okay, Charlie, my oldest, needs money to buy a homecoming ticket at school. So I'd have to go to the bank, pull out cash, because I never have cash. Pretty much everything is on the card. Or Boy Scouts come to the doorstep, right? Have some cash available. I don't have anything right now. Let me go to the bank quick. I'm like, that was just really bothering me. All these random trips to the bank.
Right.
And then I had the idea, let's create a cash account. The boys get paid cash every single week. So that's cash coming in. I assign it, the jobs in the budget are to their categories, right? So that's taken care of. They have their money. But then I have this cash that keeps building up every single week that I can use for all these miscellaneous expenses throughout the month. I'm like, hey, yes, I have another account, but it's really easy to manage. There's not a lot of spending out of it. Let's do it. And it has simplified things.
Oh, it's funny. It sounds like a lot like what I was just saying with the house cash account, right?
Yes.
Oh, so we kind of landed on the same place. Well, yeah, that's true. That's an account that I added that actually simplified things a lot because you don't have to go to the bank. You have cash in the house, and it's just nice, especially the way I have it because I have I use it for poker. I have lots of denominations.
Yep.
So, and I'm actually in a similar place as you because my daughter Flora is 8 now and she's getting really interested in money. And I'm like realizing, okay, it's time to give them an allowance so they can practice, so I'm going to give my 3-year-old is Flora and Teddy and Josie. Josie's only 3, but once you start giving allowance to one kid, you have to go to all of them. So, but we're going to give a little less to Josie just so, we're working out. But yeah, I want to give them some money every week, but I want to give it to them in $1 bills because I want them to be able to separate it out into physical envelopes.
Got it.
Or maybe even I might even do change, because I feel like the more individual pieces they can have, the better.
Sure.
But also it's more to manage. But
so they'll think you gave them more
there's
money.
There's that tension again. Yeah, right. It feels like that to them.
10 dimes, Daddy. That's a lot. That's more than $1.
Yeah. So if I want to do this, so I'm thinking about it feels like a lot, but I think it's a good amount. I want them to have a good amount to work with.
Yeah.
So we're gonna give them $5. Flora and Teddy are gonna get $5 a week. Josie's only gonna get $2, and I want to give it to them in individual dollar bills. We haven't started doing this yet, but we actually budgeted for it this month, and yeah, so now I need to keep a bunch of dollar bills in the house. Otherwise, I'm going to the bank every 5 seconds to get dollar bills. So, yeah, and you need to keep track of that. So it's nice to have it in, have a separate account for that cash. So.
All right, so we have reconciling every day or frequently. That's what it looks, for you it's every day. For me, it's once a week. And we have simplifying things. And we talked about simplifying account structures, simplifying by adding. But that might not be the case for some folks. You might actually be getting rid of accounts.
Take it away. And mostly it's focused on the ones that you spend money from. Try to reduce those as much as you can, especially.
Yep. Another habit that I realized that I'm doing every single week is coupons. Now, I know coupons, I don't know, people hate hearing about couponing. It's kind of it's cheesy, it's cliche.
Not the nerds, though. Not the nerds, Ernie. They're interested.
That's true. I'll tell you one thing. I hate coupon clipping coupons. So I'm not going
physically doing it.
Yes, I'm not going through the weeklies. I'm not going through the ads in the newspaper on Sunday and clipping out I'm done with that. That's
old fashioned anyway, right?
It is. It just doesn't work for me. So I have 2 stores that I shop at primarily. I have Woodman's, which is a Midwest grocery store. And then I have Target. And that's kind of the big box. I get everything there. And they both have apps that have coupons. And so it's really easy for me to, before I go shopping, just scroll through the apps and then compare the coupons to my grocery list. Click on them, and I'm good to go. And just that 1 or 2 minutes every single day, it saves me a little bit of money every single week. I'm certain of it. And actually, I have to share this story with the nerd community because I was so excited, beyond excited about the amount of money that I recently saved at Target. So I had to pick up a prescription for my son. picked it up, and they gave me a $5 off in the store coupon. I'm like, cool.
Oh, nice.
I have to pick up some household items. So as I was shopping household, I saw that there was a deal. Buy $50 of household items, get a $15 gift card. I'm like, okay,
Nice.
I'm going to be buying $50 because I was buying like Tide
You're like,
Pods.
let it ride, right?
Exactly. I bought some like dishwasher pods, some dishwasher rinse. Those 3 items got me to $55. Then, so I have $55 of spending. That got me the $15 Target card. I had the $5 in-store coupon. Then I had $7 worth of manufacturer coupons.
Wow.
Then I used my Target Red card, which gave me 10% off or 5%. I forget what it is. I think it's 5%. And what else did I have? Oh, I had a $10 gift card that I previously had earned through one of those offers. So like I had $55 worth of stuff. And I think I actually ended up paying like $35. But with that $10 or the $15 I got back, I think, I came out probably $20, $25. Yeah.
So coupons beget coupons beget coupons. Is what what I'm hearing here. It kind of piles up. And then every once in a while you get this big score, right?
And I know the purpose of those coupons is to get you to buy more stuff. Oh, hey, I'm saving $1, so I'm going to buy that, right? Because I'm saving money. But I just make sure that's why I create my lists first. And then if the coupons happen to play into that list, then it works out. Because then I feel like I'm actually saving money. Because I would have bought this either way, whether there's a coupon or not.
Right. That's the key.
So I was so excited about that. Like seriously, rushed home and I just told Christy, I was like, I have to tell you about how I just took it to Target. And so...
Well, you get more than just the money out of that. You get the satisfaction.
It's the satisfaction.
And there's something to it. I mean, that's actual value. Like, I think people will say like, oh, people might poo-poo that, but that's actually, it makes the whole process enjoyable. I mean, you actually had fun.
I had fun.
buying cleaning products and toilet paper, right? So like, come on, like that's great. That's value right there, And
it reinforced, and this is what I found as I was kind of making this list of all these little things I do every week. They all reinforce this budgeting mentality. Like just reminding myself that, yeah, you're a budgeter. You like to save money. These are the things you do to gain control of your money. And just every little thing along the way just reinforces that, right? Keeping that consistency with myself. So
yeah, I love that. Kind of building that identity, right?
And then the one other coupon I wanted to mention is I use Chase credit cards. We have a Hyatt card, get those hotel points. And they have these Chase offers where, if you buy gas at a certain gas station, you get 5% back. And they run the offers for a limited time. So like for 45 days or for 30 days. And so I'm regularly going through those. And again, I know the purpose is to try to get you to buy stuff you don't necessarily need. But a lot of them, I'm just picking the gas station, I'm picking grocery stores, I'm picking restaurants. Whereas if those play into the regular pattern and set schedule I already have in place, then great, I'm going to save money. And so, being able to save 10% or 5% when I fill up my gas at Casey's General Store, yeah, that's worth going out of my way instead of my regular gas station. I'll do that. Just those little things with coupons, it doesn't take me a lot of time and I get the joy out of it. And then I'm reinforcing that budgeting mindset.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to think of it. I think of couponing the same way as I think about like credit card rewards and stuff like that. Like, I think the danger is not really thinking about the cost of work, because it does take some work, but you say it doesn't take a lot of time. So like you save some money, but also, you add complexity and you add some time and effort, right? But if you actually enjoy that effort and like you said, it kind of adds this, it kind of reinforces your identity as a budgeter. That's really valuable too. So you got to think about, don't just think about the monetary value, think about the emotional value and all that too. There's a lot there. All right. Well, I feel like I'm looking at my habits that I listed here. I feel like they all really have to do with making reconciling easier. I'm gonna kind of wrap up a few. it's all a lot of these are about transactions and getting transactions into YNAB. One thing I always do when I reconcile, part of my reconciliation process is to enter pending transactions that I haven't entered yet, because that makes reconciling even easier. It adds some time right now, but it takes away time later. And I also, again, here's that satisfaction thing. I get the satisfaction of those transactions linking when I import, like when I hit import and
Yes.
they all link up. If I can get every single one of them to link up, it's just like beautiful. I love it. It's very satisfying, right? And then reconciling is basically done, right? So after I reconcile, I go through any pending transactions on that list and I go ahead and enter those if I haven't already, right?
Sure.
So that's one thing I do. I also I have all sorts of ways to enter transactions on the go, but I don't always enter them. One thing I do, though, is I have a push notification from my bank. So anytime I spend money or anytime my wife spends money on SoFi, on our bank with our debit cards, I'll get a little push notification. And it just kind of piles up in a list on my phone. And anytime I have like a downtime or anytime, or maybe before I go to bed or something like that, I'll tap that list and I'll look at it all and I'll enter some transactions. And that's really nice, especially when the transaction is different. Like, for example, I just went out to eat last night and the pending transaction doesn't include the tip, but I know what the tip is because I only a couple hours before I had put it down.
And you always do round tips too,
that's
right?
Right. Yeah, and you'll know from another episode. I always round the tip to $1 so I can remember it. And then Ernie, you made me realize that I could do the opposite. And anyways, I still round it to the dollar. So that's just how I do it. So anyways, I can remember it really easily. If I waited till the next day or later, I wouldn't remember what the tip was, right? So I have like little things like that just push notification, and then I have even like the iOS shortcut where if I push the push notification, it brings up the banking app, and then when the banking app is up, it triggers a iOS shortcut to pull up YNAB, like a little notification pops up, and I can tap that, and it'll go to YNAB, and it'll go to the add transaction screen. Anyways, that's a whole thing we can get into.
That's cool, but you don't utilize that, right?
Not really, no.
Okay. But it's so cool.
Sometimes I will push it, but yeah, this is the theme for me. Is I make these iOS shortcuts and I don't actually use them, but they're cool.
Yes.
But anyways, the bottom line is I have lots of ways to get the transactions in there to remind me, like all these little triggers to remind me to put things in there. That way, ultimately, it makes reconciling easier, and also it's just satisfying for me to be sure to enter those things and make sure when I do reconcile it all matches up and it looks good.
Yeah, I utilize those bank notifications as well. And have they ever saved you from a wrongful transaction?
I've been very blessed. I have not had, I haven't had fraud on this bank where I have I've had fraudulent transactions before.
Okay.
But not with the push notifications yet. So hopefully that won't happen. But
yeah, I remember a time where I was at work. This was, pre-YNAB, and I got a notification about this large charge on my Chase card. And I'm like, that is not me or Christy.
You didn't do that.
So, get on the horn right away, talking with Chase, and we got it taken care of. So, yeah.
You're looking at it, you're like, I would have used a coupon and it would be way cheaper.
There's a Chase offer for that resort. Didn't you see that 5% off? Right. I also utilize pending transactions as well. Now, you enter those yourself, but my bank actually offers them with direct import.
Oh, nice.
So anytime new cleared transactions come through, sometimes if I didn't enter it myself, I'll have that pending transaction sitting up there. So it's like, I just did this spending a few hours ago and it's already showing up in YNAB as a pending. Perfect. I'll just make that active. And then once the actual cleared one comes through, it matches right up with that pending. So yeah, I think that's a really easy way to get new spending into the budget.
Yeah, because I think some folks are worried about entering those. And sometimes you don't want to enter them if it's going to fall off or it's a whole charge or whatever. But usually it's just go ahead and enter it because the money's effectively left. So enter it now. So
something else that I do throughout the week is I make a lot of lists. And I realize the purpose of these lists is just to kind of keep me from making these unnecessary purchases. So, I make meal lists. That's when, usually on the weekend when I do my grocery shopping, because the point there is I want to avoid unnecessary takeout. So let me think through my week. Here's what we're going to do every single night. And not every night is a meal, but like I at least have a plan. Okay. Monday and Tuesday nights, those are whatever nights, right? So boys, you're on your own. I'll make sure there's enough food here, but you prepare what you're going to eat for supper. I make grocery lists when I do my shopping. And the point there is to avoid unnecessary items at the store. Now that always fails me if I bring one or more of the boys with, right? Because they're just kind of grabbing and it's tough for me to say no to them. So
you can only say no so many times.
Exactly. And then I also have an ongoing list throughout the week in Todoist for just things that I need to buy the next time I'm at the store. And so the purpose of this is to avoid unnecessary trips. Like just this morning, or actually this morning I made the order, but for the past week I've known that I've needed bath soap and then Lysol, right? So instead of like instantly going to the store when I know I need those items and then potentially buying things that I don't need, I just put it on in Todoist. And then when I had enough items to actually go shopping, or I knew I was going to be going somewhere, then I would buy them.
I love that. Yeah. I feel like meal planning and grocery lists and budgeting just go hand in hand. It's particularly if you're interested in cutting that. If you don't mind having a larger grocery bill and not optimizing that, that's totally fine. But if you do want to optimize, that's where it's at. I mean, I'm not the Ernie in our family. My wife is the Ernie in my family. And she does the grocery shopping and the grocery list. But that's huge. I mean, another habit, you talked about bringing your boys into the grocery aisle and having a hard time saying no. I mean, I'm the same way, but I got younger kids. We have not taken the kids into a grocery store in a very long time. We do the pickup thing.
Yeah.
And it makes a big difference. In fact, I remember just a couple weeks ago, Caitlin said that she did a big grocery shopping thing in person, and she's like, I haven't done this like since before the pandemic. And she was like, and it was awful. it's just we're like so used to the pickup now,
Yeah.
So but if you have kids, man, whether they're teenagers or little kids, like it makes a big difference to not bring them in there, because like you said, you can only say no so many times and then eventually you give up. So,
yeah.
And they know that they're wearing you down.
Okay, I gotta share a big no that I gave my boys the other week. And honestly, when I did it, I was like, this is budget nerd stuff material right here. Like people, this is going to be awesome. So we've talked about being goldfish rich, right?
Oh, right. Yes.
They're so expensive.
And I remember the image of them just continuously pouring goldfish into their mouths. Yes.
So we were buying those things all the time. And then they stopped wanting them, and I'm like, hey, that's fine.
I mean, you can only pour goldfish directly, and like, eventually you get tired of it,
right? And so, but now they've wanted to start eating them again, and I said no. Okay. These are too expensive, you guys. Plus, you're not 5 years old anymore, right? You're in high school. Find something else to eat.
It's probably for the best, I guess. I mean, to be clear, like, I'm 34, and if I had a carton of goldfish right now, I'd be pouring it into my mouth as well. So it's
I'm 44, and I eat them all the time. So yeah. They are
just
good.
Not have it in the house at all. Well, that's the problem. It's not only are they expensive, but like they go so fast because they're so good. Man, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, and when you dump them out, half of them go on the floor too. So
they put an addictive chemical in there and makes you crave it. Yeah.
So I was just so proud of myself that I said no to goldfish, and hopefully they just stay out of the house for a really long time.
Yeah. Oh, well, good job. Well done. No longer have to buy those $12 cartons of goldfish or whatever it is. I don't even remember what it costs anymore.
About $9.
$9?
Yeah.
Jeez Louise. All right, yeah. I mean, it is a lot. Okay, anyways, we can talk about goldfish our entire. We'll have another goldfish episode sometime. Love that. Well, good job saying no. I don't remember. Is it your turn to do another habit, or is it my turn? I
just talked about the lists. Did you talk about something after? I don't even remember. Why don't you just take one?
I'll just go. Okay. One habit I have is aggressively automating everything I can possibly automate when it comes to bill paying. Okay. I don't want to think about anything. I don't want to ever have to go pay a bill. Now I do, because pretty much all my monthly bills are automated, but my city is backwards, and I need to become a city councilor so I can change this and then quit. Because you can't automate the water bill that I pay. I pay mine monthly, and I'm just like, guys, come on, man. Like, can we just do this? I think that it might be possible if I like go in person or something and like go to this office and make it happen. But like, if anybody asks you to like write a letter or like go to an office in person, they're just bullying you, you know? So maybe one day I'll figure it out, but I can't automate the water bill. And I'm like, guys, so I have to pay that. And that's annoying. And then all the medical bills that come in, which is like just kind of a constant stream of medical bills because I have 4 kids. So it's just kind of like, there's always something. So I can't automate those, but anything I can, which is pretty much everything else, just automatically goes. And that way I don't have to think about it at all. And now this is a privilege of having budgeted for a long time. And because, maybe you might not, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you might be like, well, I kind of have to like focus on it and really, time the bills to the paychecks and all that. But once you get a month ahead in YNAB, you can start doing that. So make that a goal. And that's really huge.
Or even, before you get that month ahead, once you start saving for the true expenses, you build up a little bit more cash in your checking account. You're not running that balance down to zero nearly as often. And so you can start automating those a little bit more. I remember being able to do that, and it took a ton of stress because I'm like, I don't have to think about this. I would couple the auto pay with a scheduled transaction just so that would trigger on a certain day. Then I would know, okay, I'm paying this bill automatically.
Yeah.
So nothing I need to do. And I will say though, I think your city's eventually going to get there. So my little city of Eau Claire, we're talking, 75,000 people. We recently automated the water bill process. And so now that I have that set up on auto pay.
Can you like send an emissary to Lynchburg, Virginia?
Absolutely. I'll do that right away.
Okay, cool.
And it's weird with the water bill. I don't know if your city has it, but you have all these various drop stations that you can drop and pay your water bill at. Like you can pay it at the library.
Really? Well, actually you can. I know they actually do have a drop station but it's only one I know of.
Okay.
So
I think we have them throughout the city. But I love when, those places have the automation. I mean, the one place where it's a little annoying I found is with credit card companies. So we use Chase and then Discover, and neither of them give you an option to pay the account balance in full. You just have to you can only auto pay a certain amount or the statement balance.
Oh yeah, right. Because that's how they're set up. That makes sense.
I don't need to pay the balance down to zero. Like I have the money sitting in the payment category, so I don't. And I prefer actually to hold on to more cash for a little bit longer.
Yeah, you might as well. That's why you're using a credit card anyway, right? So you might as well just do the statement balance and just let it ride. And
it's just a little annoying that every month I have to go into the scheduled transaction and update it to the new statement balance. But that it's minor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just why can't the whole world just be on our YNAB like system?
I know. And come on, people.
Come on, guys. Come on.
So this next one, not much to say here, but I do some habit stacking. Actually, I do one thing. When the weather's nice or it's not below zero and snow all over the ground, I like to bike because that's how I run my errands. I save gas money, and then I also get some exercise. And so again, just little things where I'm trying to optimize, tasks, money situations, and then out of it, I get that satisfaction of doing those things, and also the satisfaction, money-wise, like, okay, I biked to Target, I saved myself a little bit of money here, so... Doesn't move the needle in the budget, but it makes me feel good.
Yeah, that's good.
And then some other things I do throughout the week, just, if there's a personal finance article or podcast or, a new Netflix documentary on money, there's one that just recently came out. I like reading those and, taking those in. I don't become obsessed with all the stuff out there because there is so much. But if there's something that's a lot of people are talking about or I find interesting, I go ahead and take that in. And again, just kind of keeping that identity going of like, yep, this is something that I enjoy. I'm a budgeter. So trying to reinforce that.
I love that. Love that. Yeah. I mean, kind of along the same lines, one habit that I keep, and I kind of cheat a little bit because it's literally my job to do this, but it's just hang out in the YNAB community every day, really. There's a few places that do that. I mean, there's friendly YNABers all over the internet, but some of the biggest ones are on Reddit. There's a really active YNAB subreddit, which is really awesome. There's also a bunch of Facebook groups on YNAB. The biggest one is the YNAB fans Facebook group. There's also friendly YNAB support Facebook group. You can check those out. I wouldn't be surprised if there's one for your particular country. If you're outside the US, there probably is one specifically for your country, so you can talk about your own laws and things like that and all that. So check it out. Yeah, it makes a big difference because we talked about kind of making budgeting part of your identity. Getting other budgeters around you is a huge part of that. That's what this show is about, really. And it's hard to do that with people you actually know because it's awkward to talk about money with people you actually know in your real life, but you could talk to strangers on the internet about it a lot easier for some reason. So, totally. So yeah, get those people around you. And I know a lot of people, I've made a lot of friends and people I know well in those communities. So it's pretty neat.
Excellent. Well, I just have one more that I want to share. And I guess to wrap up all the other ones I've talked about, and I've said this, but just to reinforce it, is, I'm doing these little things throughout the week to maintain that budgeting identity that I set out to establish all those years ago, right? Just every little decision that I make that reinforces that, it just kind of makes me stronger. So don't downplay the little things that you do in your life, right? There's a lot of value in those. So the last one I want to talk about is just, and this is actually budget specific, is I try to quickly address anything that needs attention. So if there's uncategorized transactions, if there's overspending, money and ready to assign, like let's get those taken care of as quickly as possible so that things don't get out of hand, because I don't want to feel overwhelmed by the budget. So a lot of times this means me hounding Christy to, hey, what is this Target transaction for? Now, she has gotten really, really good at entering her spending herself, but every so often she forgets something. And so then I'm sending multiple text messages. It hasn't gotten to the point yet where I have to call her like, hey.
That's a part of being married to a budgeter. I mean, right. You're going to get, what's this transaction? Yeah.
She's used to it. And so generally we can get those things resolved within 24 hours, tighten up the budget, and move forward.
Yeah, for me, if I have overspending in the budget, even if I'm not looking at it, I still feel anxious. Yeah, And it's funny, like before, again, this was back in the day, I would leave overspending for a long period of time. Yes. Even back in 4 days, you could just like let it ride for months and months and never really address it, right? But now, yeah, I try to enter things right when they happen. I try to take care of any uncategorized transactions right away, and covering overspending right away is really helpful. And I think the part that helped me was realizing that I'm not making a permanent decision. Like, just take it from some category. It's okay. Like you can change your mind later and move money around again later on. And just remembering, like, I think sometimes we have overspending and we're like, I don't know where to take that from. Like you could easily cover it, but you're like, I'm just not sure where to take it from. And you don't want to do the mental work to figure it out. And so you end up leaving that overspending for like weeks. And then you could even have a situation where your budget isn't accurate. So just cover it from a category and move on. And if you need that money later from another category, you can do the whack-a-mole thing. You can take it from another category. That's fine. So no problem.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was transformational for me early in my budgeting years, where I would let a lot of categories go red, overspent, and I would pay them back with my next paycheck, right? So it's Tuesday, I'm doing spending, overspent. Okay, well, I'm getting paid in 3 days. Like, I'll just pay that category back then. But I don't know, there was something about that. It was almost like I was always saying yes to everything. And when I was always saying yes, I could never get ahead.
Well, it's because you weren't really following rule 1 or rule 3, I guess.
Yeah.
Because you were always imagining future money to cover what's going on. If you just pretend like that doesn't exist and say, I need to cover it with the money I have now, then you start actually weighing those trade-offs,
Yeah. And so saying no a little bit more, making the trade-offs in the actual budget, I don't know, introduced that scarcity that helped me to really zero in on what's important and what my money needs to buy, and then help me eventually get to that point where I was starting to get ahead with things.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's almost a philosophical thing, because I think some folks might say, and this is me too, like, well, I'm doing the rule 2 thing, I'm a month ahead, I have a lot of cash in the budget. If I'm off by $5 over spending or something, it's not that big a deal. Like, yes, the budget is technically inaccurate, but like, I'm not gonna die,
Right.
Right. But there's just maybe I'm a purist, I don't know, but there's just something to following rule 3 and really making it a rule and covering that overspending right away, because it changes your mindset. It really does. So that's the key. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So what are the little habits that you do every day, every week to keep you engaged in the budget? Sound off in the comments. If you're listening to the podcast, you can email us at budgetnerds@youneedabudget.com. I always screw that up for some reason. And so why don't we now head into YNAB Wins? We have a couple of those for you.
Who's all in your mind?
All right, my win comes from Elizabeth Greshner. This was on the Ben and Ernie tour, the YNAB API. It's a small win, but I got my husband on board to budget. We were able to go on a trip for his friend's wedding, plan a trip for us with a game plan on how to save for it, and pay off a rather large loan in 2 months. Seeing that we are able to tackle debt easily has made him excited to keep going. That's awesome, Elizabeth. I would actually argue that is a huge win.
Yeah, it's going to make such a difference.
Get your partner on board with the budget. So that's excellent.
Well, and that's the advice we give people all the time. If your partner's a little reluctant, is just start budgeting, especially, or find a goal that you can go after and show them that it works.
Yes.
And that's exactly what they did. So,
and they'll be like, whoa, this is pretty cool. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I have Cerise, who wrote in on the When the Budget Gets Boring episode. And Cerise said, kind of a YNAB win for me, ? After watching Hannah's video on the 100 envelopes challenge, I started the 50 envelopes challenge on YNAB, not really knowing what to do with the money, just for the fun of shaving some cents here and there. Sounds like a true budget nerd, right?
Yes.
On a whim, it was decided earlier this month that my family and I would take a 3-day trip to London next month. Cool. And while my while my brother and mother are trying to cut down their expenses to save for the trip, I already saved 333 euros saved up that I could use to pay for my train ticket and my part of the hotel. Love that.
That's so cool. Very cool. Congrats.
I mean, yeah, that's what you got to do, guys. You just got to do these challenges for no reason, and then you'll find, guys. You save up some money, you'll find a way to use it pretty quick. There's always something. So go for it and see what happens. I love that.
And we actually have a special third win that we want to share. Yes. Ben, I'm going to put you on the spot here because during one of the breaks, you mentioned something to me, and I was like, oh my goodness, you need to share this with the community.
Well, we've had the money in the category for a long time, and my kitchen floor is getting more and more probably rotted. We're getting a new fridge. We're buying it today. It's happening.
Tuesday.
It's been a struggle.
October 11th. The fridge is getting bought. Now, I joke that it's probably going to be out of stock. Something's going to happen that's going to prevent you.
So Caitlin and I had a babysitter yesterday, and our big romantic date after we went out to eat was to go to Lowe's and look at refrigerators. And we did that. We did that before, but I think we were kind of bummed because our little spot where the fridge goes is smaller than I think the standard fridge nowadays.
Okay.
And so we couldn't, there's really only one fridge that will fit. And I think we were a little bummed about it. So that's why we didn't like really look at it, because it's not exactly the one we want. But what I told Kaylin was, when we renovate the kitchen in like several years from now, once we save up enough money, we'll get a different fridge. And so if we don't like this one, but I think it's just so great. The freezer is at the bottom. This is the most exciting thing for me. Okay. The freezer is at the bottom, because who decided that freezer should be at the top? Then you have to bend over. You use the fridge part more than the freezer part, so you have to bend over all the dang time.
Good point.
My whole life is about not having to bend over, and it's just so lazy. But the freezer's at the bottom, so it's going to be great. I think it could change my life. I think I might eat healthier, because I'm going to be able to see leftovers.
Wow,
it's
this is going to change your life.
I'm having a lot of feelings about this. So yeah, we're gonna get on the Lowe's app or whatever, and we're gonna tell them to deliver it. So it's happening today.
Well, we are all very excited for you. And if you actually do buy this thing, send me a pic. I would love to throw it in the YouTube video. We'd all love to see it, actually.
I'll go on the page and send it to you. It's very exciting. It's the smallest fridge at Lowe's. So it's the smallest fridge at Lowe's that also has the freezer on the bottom, because that was a non-negotiable for me, because I needed the freezer to be on the bottom. Sound off in the comments if you know what I mean. Like, why is the freezer on top? All right, anyways. Okay. So,
all right, well, if you have a YNAB win, big or small, something in the budget, a goal you accomplish, or just a mindset shift, share that with us in the comments. Otherwise, budgetnerds@youneedabudget.com. Thanks again for another great episode. We'll see you in a couple more weeks.
Thanks, everybody.